Hello and welcome to the Oakland A's Moneyball rebuild. Thank you for coming. My name is BigIrrelevant, and this was my first ever Mlbtheshow rebuild video. So today we are going to be following the Oakland A's and our franchise, playing and attempting to rebuild them in the way that the old 2002 Oakland Athletics built their franchise, using Moneyball techniques, as can be seen in the fantastic movie Moneyball. I love that movie. This is like my love of baseball comes a lot from like the statistic elements of this, and the Oakland A's are a great representation of this. So today we're going to be going with a more statistical based rebuild, which I hope that other people who enjoy the movie or are Oakland A's fans specifically because of the movie Moneyball and the techniques used in it, that maybe that this will be interesting for you. So with the Oakland A's, we are putting ourselves in a hole already. As many people know, the Oakland A's are going to be transferring and moving to Las Vegas in a couple years. So our goal is going to be attempt to rebuild this A's team while they're still in Oakland. We have a few rules that we need to abide by in order to be able to follow this Moneyball franchise. So obviously it's 2024. Things have changed a lot since 2002 when the Moneyball techniques were used. So we are going to go back in time and attempt to adapt some of these rules to the ways that this actually works. The first one is going to be the budget. So back in 2002, the Oakland A's had a budget of $39 million for player salaries. This year, you can see that we are at $56 million. Due to inflation, because it has been 22 years since that Moneyball moment has happened, we are going to adjust our salary up to what is the current inflation rate of that $39 million, which will bring us up to $67.2 million. So one of the rules that we must follow is that our salary must at all times stay below $67.2 million, which, looking at our current roster, should be pretty easy because the most of our guys that we're looking at that have high pay rates are on the older side of it. We don't have a lot of franchise guys. Guys like Ross Stripling and Alex Wood are more like 1-year deals. Even Aledmys Diaz is going to be somebody who we're probably going to move on from pretty early, thankfully with only 1 year left on their deal. So we should be able to stay under this. That part of the rebuild is actually going to be the easier part. The harder part is going to be attempting to build our franchise using the rules and trying to use the Moneyball techniques.
You're not buying into this Bill James bullshit, are you?
This is the new direction of the Oakland A's.
If we go look at our roster, we are going to notice that we, in our lineup specifically, have a very, very weak roster. And in fact, comparing ourselves to the majority of the contenders, say like the Atlanta Braves, we just don't have much talent to be able to kind of rely on here. So we are not going to have a Ronald Acuna, and we're never going to be able to get a guy like Ronald Acuna. With a $67 million budget, we cannot afford guys that are going to cost, well, Acuna is a bad example because of how the Braves have set up their contract with him. But let's go to another good team like the Dodgers and take a look at like Freddie Freeman here, $27 million. We would not be able to afford somebody taking up about half of our salary. So we are going to have to go with cheaper guys, younger players, 1-year deals on different veterans in order to attempt to still recreate this sort of statistics. What does the Moneyball method use?
Okay, people who run ball clubs, they think in terms of buying players. Your goal shouldn't be to buy players. Your goal should be to buy wins. And in order to buy wins, you need to buy runs.
In the past few years, the estimated amount of wins that we would need to get in order to make the playoffs in the AL will be around 94 wins. We will need to, on average, score 816 runs and give up around 681 runs. In order to get those measurements, we will be using the on-base percentage, the slugging percentage, and the ERA is of our pitchers. Now, granted, once again, I'm going to state statistics might be a little bit different than what a normal statistician would say is accurate due to the fact that this is a video game and the numbers are not going to be accurate to real life. For example, with pitchers, I could not connect and correlate extra innings. We had to basically evaluate on a 9-inning measurement rather than using extra innings, which I know some people are going to be a little upset by. So the ERA might be a little inflated of what we are looking for. We are going to be looking for lower than what the ERA is. Our two numbers that we are going to be looking, our pitcher statistics will be looking for an ERA under 4.2. Once again, I state that the stat is a little bit off due to the 9-inning measurement, not using extra innings involved. So we are going to be attempting to find any pitcher with an ERA below 4.2. For hitters, we are going to be looking for an on-base percentage above 346. This is the most accurate I could find or calculate myself using our playoff measurements versus average and attempting to create the perfect runs created statistic for what we needed for on-base percentage. Now, granted, a lot of things in the Moneyball series might not be the most accurate. So we will have players who are not going to fall in those lines. Maybe we will find a stud. Maybe somebody will develop in a way that is going to end up putting us in a position where we don't need to worry about Moneyball because this player is more talented than the actual measurements calculate. So we are going to focus on these adjustments for a lot of free agent signings, for a lot of trades, in order to really balance out our roster. Because in the beginning, we are going to be dealing with absolute garbage. I think most people can expect that when they look at this actual Oakland Athletics roster that we are dealing with. So first, let's take a look at our actual lineup going into this season and evaluate what roster talent we have. So to start off, we're going to have a few guys that don't have enough data to be able to actually measure. So this is going to be a lot of testing that we're going to be running with them. Guys like Max Schumann is a rookie in this roster that I have downloaded, but a C potential 26-year-old second baseman. If you look at his contract, he's going to be cheap. No matter what, he's going to end up being worth it until he no longer is producing. So sometimes we're going to look at players like this who have very, very cheap contracts because they are on minor league deals. That is going to put us in a position where these guys are not going to be like inflated on our contract standpoint. So we do have a few guys like this who haven't really played. Max Schumann doesn't really have any data. Kyle McCann is another rookie that we have on our lineup that is not going to be ending up giving us any data. And then we also have some other younger guys like JJ Bleday, who really doesn't have a whole lot of information. A pretty bad on-base percentage from him so far, but you know, nothing that is really going to influence a whole lot simply because we just don't have a large enough sample size. Only 82 games last season. He hasn't looked good, but it might be something to work off of. Another guy like this is Lawrence Butler, who I do think has some potential, but he does not get on base very often. Yet he's only been on, only had 123 at bats in his first season, so we don't necessarily know. So when we look through our actual lineup, we have Max Schumann at shortstop. We have Abraham Toro currently sitting as our DH. He did not really play last season, so he might just be a fill-in roster for now until we find somebody else to go with. Esther Ruiz had a great season last year with stolen bases, probably one of the best players on our lineup. Might not get on base as much, but you also have to remember that the stolen bases are not calculated into these runs created statistics the way that the new stats use stolen bases. So he still has value because of how much he steals, how fast he is, and how good he is in the field. Brent Rooker is our power here. He will probably be boosting our slugging percentage. If I look at the slugging, he is probably the only one who currently on our roster meets our actual slugging percentage needs as our real only power hitter, hitting 30 home runs last season in his 137 games. Good breakout year for Brent Rooker. I hope that we keep him around, but you never know with how guys play. Zach Geloff is probably one of our young prospects that I'm actually looking forward to the most. He has some power. He has some ability to get on base. He really looks like he could be our second baseman for the future, but we also are dealing with another small sample size, only playing 69 games last year. We have JD Davis as another fill-in out here on third. Pretty good player, decent amount of power, decent amount of contact, gets on base a little bit, definitely doesn't hit our metric, but is getting close to average. He is paid a little high for what I want for this, especially if we can get younger guys, but he might just be somebody that we move at the deadline in order to try to, you know, get more prospects in our system. Shea Langoliers, this is his second season, did not really get on base very often, but this is also the catcher position. Catcher's traditionally not the type of guy that I'm really concerned with getting our numbers, our stats from here. So we just need him to be average. Right now he's below, but once again, we're talking about a guy who is on a $740,000 minor league deal, renewable, 5 years of 5 years left of team control, 3 years of arbitration. So we'll have him around for a little while. Seth Brown, we've had as in our franchise for a long time. He is a longtime Oakland A, but he has been getting much worse in the last couple years. I do believe that he might be a guy that we either try to flip at the deadline if he has any value, if he's having a good season, or we might end up DFAing him if we have nothing else to put up there, because he's just not really worth it. He does have 2 more years of arbitration, but at $2.6 million, he is not producing to the way that we want. Ryan Noda, this is his second season. Good on base percentage. He walks a lot. This is a type of guy that I actually really like to have on this roster. So Ryan Noda hopefully will be a future first baseman. We have 5 years of team control over Ryan Noda. So back to the bench, we have Lawrence Butler, JJ Bleday, who I mentioned both of them. We also have Nick Allen, who is in year 3. Does not get on base a whole lot, but once again, pretty cheap contract to be able to work with. Might be just a temporary shortstop that we are dealing with. Kyle McCann is our rookie. So looking at our lineup, we don't have a lot. We really are basically trying to balance ourselves on Brent Rooker, Zach Geloff, and Ryan Noda, maybe Shea Langoliers as potential guys for the future, but pretty much everybody else seems to be replaceable. Maybe Max Schumann will end up being decent, but we don't know anything about him right now. Now taking a look at our pitching staff, well, we're going to be in a pretty brutal position trying to replace this pitching staff pretty quickly. When I look through this roster, we only have about 1 or 2 guys in our pitching staff who fit our ERA requirements in order to try to keep our earned runs down. As we know, the Oakland A's are a really bad roster, so we're kind of dealing with a scrap pile here. Hopefully some guys can develop, and one of those guys might be Paul Blackburn. He has not been meeting our requirements on ERA, 4.43 in the last couple years, a really high whip last year, so maybe this can come back down, but it's not like he's really ever had a great year outside of his rookie season in 2017, so dealing with injuries a lot. He might not be a guy that we're planning on sticking around with a lot. He might be a trade deadline piece, but we do have another year of team control after this season if we need to keep him around. JP Sears, 28-year-old pitcher, lefty. It's nice to have lefties in my pitching rotation, especially against some teams that don't have good left-handed or lineups or right-handed hitters to hit lefties. But he hasn't really been that impressive either. 4.5 ERA, 1.26 whip. So we don't necessarily know what we're going to get out of JP Sears, but we also have 5 years of team control over JP Sears. Alex Wood is a band-aid, just kind of a guy to eat some innings up. He has not had a good year for a couple years, not since 2021, and actually was pretty good for the first about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's about 6 seasons of his career. But since then, he's getting old. He might not be somebody who ends up bringing up any value to us, but once again, this might be a trade piece at the deadline, depending on where we are and what teams need pitching. Just doesn't look like a guy to our future. Once again, we have another rookie here, Joe Boyle. In 3 starts last season, had actually a pretty good start to his career with a 1.69 ERA, but once again, small sample size. We don't necessarily know much about Joe Boyle. Maybe he'll be a part of our rotation, maybe not. Ross Stripling, older pitcher, used to be a lot better when he was pitching back with the Dodgers, but has gotten a little old in this stint and had a bad year last year in San Francisco. I'm hoping to get at least some production out of him this season, mainly once again, maybe to be a trade piece. So that's the end of our starting rotation. We do also have Freddie Tarnok, who could end up coming up this and being one of our starters if we need to move somebody. We already have him here. He's not that great either, but you know, once again, small sample size. Guy's only played 6 games in his career, mainly only 5. So once again, though, 5 years of team control might end up developing into something valuable. Our Rule 5 pick from this past year, Mitch Spence, will be one of our relievers. Once again, no data, so we don't know anything about him, but he might be able to produce. Got a nice K per 9, nice home run per 9, so maybe he'll be able to put up something, get some strikeouts, and limit some runs for the next several years. We do have 6 years of team control on Mitch Spence. Danny Jimenez is one of the only pitchers that actually in the past season has had our ERA rotation limit of 4.2 with a 3.47 last year and a 3.4 in the year before, but is a reliever, and I don't necessarily know if this guy is going to end up being anything really great for us. Does have a good K per 9, does have a good hit per 9, not a great walks per 9, but I do believe that he could end up being useful and a part of our bullpen. Lucas Urseg, or I believe that's Urseg, 50 games last season, 4.75 ERA. Might just be an innings eater for us for now, but we do have a lot of team control over him. Kyle Muller used to be last year, was a starter. It was a pretty bad starter, in fact. 7.6, I believe. I can't read. 7.6 ERA. I have to read a different screen because I can't read that. 6s and 8s are hard for me to read. I apologize. But we do once again have 6 years of team control on Kyle Muller if we end up liking him. Austin Adams, 32 years old, just kind of a guy in the bullpen, probably will move him around. Scott Alexander, 34 years old, probably will move him if we need to. And the big piece, I wish we had him this year in real life, but at least we get the 80 overall version of Mason Miller, our closer, our stud closer with 6 years of team control on him. Hopefully we'll be able to keep him around for long term. Traditionally, you don't build a roster around a reliever, but when the reliever is the best player on your roster, it's going to be kind of hard to miss that. So Mason Miller hopefully will be here for this entire rebuild, but you never know. We might get a good offer for Mason Miller in several years or in a year and get some bats, because bats and starting pitching are more valuable than a closer. So whatever we end up getting for Mason Miller, if we end up moving him, I hope not to. I'd like to keep him around and build our bullpen around Mason Miller. So the last thing we need to look at for our roster is going to be our top 10 or top 20 prospects and kind of look at what we have in the future coming up. We have last year's first round pick, Jacob Wilson, who will probably be coming up and taking that shortstop spot in about 2 seasons. We also have Max Muncy, who's been around for a little while. Another decent infield prospect, Miles Naylor, pretty young, but once again, another infield prospect in order to be able to have this. We have Denzel Clark. We've got a lot of good prospects that I think we can work around. Daryl Hernaiz. We have, in addition, Daniel Susak, another catcher prospect that might be able to take the place of Langoliers if Langoliers is bad. But traditionally, when I'm looking at a lot of our roster here and the guys that we have, like Brett Harris is already up, we're pretty much just going to be attempting to build up this farm system. One of the techniques that is used in a lot of this rebuilding process that is not seen in a lot of the Moneyball things is that we are going to just attempt to pretty much hold our players hostage. It might not seem like a great idea if you were thinking about on a human level, but these aren't humans, they're bots. So our goal is pretty much to try to pay our players the least amount of money possible. So if we have to hold these guys in the system for a lot longer, we will. If we have the ability to try to push them back until we have to pay them, we will. We want to pay our roster the least amount of money. We also will often be drafting not for position, but just for best available, because these prospects also might have value to be traded. Say that Jacob Wilson ends up being our starting shortstop. Daryl Hernaiz might not have any value then in that position. Obviously, he can play second base and third base, but say that we fill those positions up with Miles Naylor, which he'll come up a little bit later, but Ryan Noda at first, Zach Geloff at second. Max Muncy maybe comes up at second and Geloff moves to third. We might move a guy like Daryl Hernaiz simply because we want to attempt to build up as much value in our prospect system so that we can move these players and attempt to get more usable players at the time. We are going to be making a lot of trades, a lot of free agent moves in order to try to continue to rebuild our asset pool and continuously move forward with our strategy here. Our goal is to win this as fast as possible while not sacrificing or losing any of our prospects, so that way we can hold up a franchise. We are starting pretty low here. This isn't the worst farm system in baseball, but if we were to go and look at the top 100 prospects in baseball and I scroll down, it's going to take a little while till we see an Oakland Athletic. A very long time, in fact, as I would hope Jacob Wilson is 70th. Our top prospect is 70th in the nation. And if we go down further, we likely will not see another A. We have one A in the top 100. We do not have a good farm system right now. We just have Jacob Wilson, last year's first round pick. We should have a high pick this year to draft. I know we don't have number 1. I believe that is Cleveland. But we will end up drafting and continuously working on trying to build up our system to get as many good prospects in, whether they're going to be trade pieces or if they're going to be used as actual pieces on our lineup. So we're going to get into this. My traditional way of moving through a franchise like this is we're going to move month to month. You might not see a month, especially in the first couple years as we move, because the A's just aren't a very good roster. So as I move forward, I'm going to be evaluating content at AAA, at single A, double A, in our minor system, and attempting to move guys and pull them up, especially at the edges of our roster. We will be watching our top guys, seeing if we can move any value for them, especially these guys on 1-year deals. If I'm looking at my budget, guys like Ross Stripling, Alex Wood, Ledmus Diaz, JD Davis, Scott Alexander, a lot of these expiring deals. That's a minor league deal, but a lot of these expiring deals I might be looking to move as fast as possible. We're gonna still play this realistic. I'm not gonna go and get Jason Dominguez for Alex Wood in a trade deal with the Yankees. We're gonna try to play this to the best of our ability to be as realistic as possible. And yeah, this will be our Moneyball A's. So let's get into our first season with the Oakland A's. So first we are going to start with scouting, looking at our depth chart for the upcoming years, and as we move forward, we really don't have a lot at most positions that I'm looking at. So evaluating our roster, we're pretty much have players at short, second, first. We have a closer. We do have a few catchers that could end up being very good, but there's a few big holes that I'm looking at. Out in the outfield, this is 2028, so obviously this is a lot farther down the line. This is 5 years into the future. We're looking at guys like Denzel Clark, Asturio Ruiz, JJ Bleday, Lawrence Butler, and even if we go the year before, we have Brent Rooker for still like a 77 overall. So our lineup is not looking necessarily great in the future. So in different positions, as I look through this roster, we definitely need outfield. We could use third base or shortstop. We could use one more infielder, pretty much. It looks like we have Noda, Geloff, Muncy, Wilson, and Muncy might not develop according to his potential rating right now, and Hernaiz. The other position that we have that is very, very weak is the starter position. Right now, it looks like we don't really have any guys in our system that will end up having any value at the pitching position. So we will need to fill that. So my strategy right now to start is we are going to be doing 2 different pitching groups, international and East, and really focus on just getting as many pitchers as possible. The other position that we want to look at is just searching for top prospects. When we look at our picks, we have a number 4 pick and a number 39 pick, meaning that we will be in a good position to draft somebody at the top. And when I look at the top, I always want to try to get a position player, simply because there's a great chance you can get a very good position player where I know I can get good pitchers further down the board, and pitchers are easier to replace, just knowing how MLB The Show works. So looking at some of our top prospects that we can look in the MLB rank, we do see some pitchers here. So we have an international pitcher. We have a third baseman right here who is a power bat if he ends up being the type of guy that we look at. So Ron Gonzalez might be somebody who we're going to take a look at down the road. We have Robert Ricks here, another international pitcher. We also have some closers. And then the reason I'm doing shortstop is I saw this guy and he looks like an on-base machine. If he ends up having that contact rating that he looks like he's having, and he's 21 already, meaning he might start up a little bit earlier. If this guy looks like the way he looks like to me right now, this could be a stud in our system. So Mark Palma is somebody who I'm really looking at as a potential guy. But we just kind of need to get into it, do our scouting, see what we end up getting. So we're going to take a look, kind of big group scout all of our pitchers because you never know what we're going to get. There's a ton of potential pitchers in every single draft that you can end up filling your starting rotation with. So we're going to pursue a lot of pitching, but we also need to pay attention to some of the other positions and see what we can get. So I'll probably walk through and do some of the scouting, and then I'll catch back up with you for the next scouting moment, unless we decide to make a trade, signing, or an injury occurs. We are last place in the AL West, but look, we're only 4.5 games back, a month in. We had a few good wins here against Cleveland, against Baltimore we had one. The Yankees are bad. Baltimore's not good either. We're gonna sim to the end of the month and take a look. Looks like we are gonna be losing Denzel Clark. Keep active here, auto fix, auto utilize, and let's go take a look at what our roster looks like after the first month. So Schumann, 234, 292 on base, not that bad for a good start here. So we're just gonna kind of scroll here. 280 for Esteury Ruiz, that's pretty good. His on base percentage, 358. Guy's getting on base. Rooker already has 8 home runs in the first month of the season. That is fantastic for Rooker to start. A 532 slugging percentage. This dude is amazing right now for our system. Geloff doing pretty well. Shea Langoliers still not necessarily that great. Noda not really performing. You can see I did move Toro to the bench. He's hitting 269. Blade is hitting 310. So our bench bats are actually hitting pretty well in their little bit of stints. And the only guys that really look like they're doing poorly are Seth Brown and Shea Langoliers. And I guess against lefties, we need to make sure that Seth Brown is not playing, which he is. Seth Brown is going to come out against lefties. We're going to put in, I guess, JJ Bleday for now. Simply because he is not doing well. Shea Langoliers is doing bad against everybody, but that's that. I go to the pitching rotation. 5.7 ERA for Blackburn, 5.6 for Sears, 4.6 for Wood, 5.9 for Boyle, 2.4 for Stripling. Okay. He is regressing. He is a little old. He's 34 years old, but might be a good trade piece here. If I look at the rest of our bullpen, 0 ERA for Mason Miller after the first month. Dude is a stud. He is definitely going to be part of our rotation if we continue to keep going, or at least our bullpen. So just kind of that our first look. We're going to continue to sim. I'll probably sim for the next month unless something else comes up. We will probably catch back up around the, I guess, draft, where we are going to go take a look. So, because we already got some prospects, unless I got some good prospects to show you ahead of time. So, as we started moving a little bit closer towards the trade deadline, I'm starting to look at a little of our minor league depth. And one of those things that we should start looking at is try to move some of these guys that we wanted to move at the deadline. Ross Stripling is old. He's regressing, but he's actually having a pretty decent season. I should have traded him a little earlier. He was doing a little bit better, had a little bit of a down month, and then lost a little bit of value, but brought it up after about 2 more good starts. So 3.67 ERA. Dude's actually playing pretty well. So we're probably going to move him. And then we're also looking at moving Austin Adams, a reliever who has 1 more year of team control, but is just doing really, really well. In that, we're going to go talk to the Arizona Diamondbacks, who need starters and relievers. They don't say they need starters, but when you have a 3 ERA pitcher, you are going to move that type of guy. So we're talking to the Diamondbacks. We want to get their 4th rated prospect in their system, Christopher Torin. He is a second baseman. He has a little bit of the stats that I like with those contact stats. He might still be a little bit away. We're probably going to move him up to AA once we pick him up. And the other guy is an unranked player in their system, Jorge Barrosa, who I like his stats and I like his slugging percentage and on-base percentage and the 94 at-bats that he has. So we're going to make this deal. And we have 2 new prospects. So looking at our roster, we're down to 32 and 46. So when I go to our pitching rotation, I made a few changes. I moved Boyle down to AAA and I brought Waldachuk up, but Waldachuk has been doing pretty poorly. But now that we just made those trades and we have some room to go, we're going to go onto our roster. We're going to take a look at some of these guys, and look, Boyle is actually pitching well again. So we're going to call Boyle right back up to the MLB, put him back in the rotation. See, he had a 5.6 ERA, was pitching pretty poorly in those first couple starts, so I wanted to put him back in the minors, get him some momentum. He's playing well again, so we'll bring him back up. The other guy that is pitching really, really well is Zach Jackson, and so I want to bring Zach Jackson up. I could also bring Scott Alexander back up, but he was having a bad year in the majors. So I think we have to add Zach Jackson to our 40-man, and we're going to bring him up to the MLB to fill up that bullpen. So with that, we also need to move a guy down, and I brought up, like, Shea Langoliers is having a poor year right now, but it's not going to be that bad because he really, I don't want to use an option on him when he is not actually regressing right now. But also Kyle McCann is doing really, really well. So Langoliers is probably going to move to the bench while McCann continues to take more of the reps for the rest of this season. I brought Nevin up. We are going to send Nevin right back down to AAA. He was hitting 317 in AAA, so I was like, oh, this guy might have value up here, but he did not. So Nevin's going to go back down, and that will be our rotation. So fix our rotation. We're going to put Boyle back into it, and we're going to take Waldachuk and put him back in the bullpen and bring Sears back in and Zach Jackson into the setup role. Look, Mason Miller's having a great year right now. So, and back to the lineup rotation, we are going to move Langoliers onto the bench for a little while. Barossa should not be in the majors. And Har's up now, and yeah. So our guys aren't having a great year. Geloff and Rooker and JD Davis. Davis is probably going to be the next guy I'm going to move at the deadline, and Seth Brown is having a horrible year right now. All right, we are at the MLB draft, and it's time to get started. So after we go through a lot of our prospects, there was a lot of guys that I really enjoyed looking at and scouted. There's a lot of really good pitchers in this draft, and if you look at our top 4 right now, or even top 5, they're all decent starters to consider. So there's a lot of really good pitching in this draft. Obviously, Chris Gill, who we talked about the first time, is one of the guys who could potentially be one of the best prospects in this draft. I also scouted Art Blackburn, who will probably be a later pick that I'm going to get because of his lower MLB-based draft rank, as well as Ronan Wells. Now, a lot of this I'm looking at just the potential rating in order to kind of get these guys. I don't necessarily know if I like these stats, but they're strikeout pitchers, or at least Ronan Wells is. Ronan Wells is probably more desirable because of his strikeout ability, where Blackburn is more of an all-around pitcher and could bring value that way. As we go a little further, we have Art Blank, who fits a little bit more into our trying to lower walks goals there. But I think no matter what, our first pitcher prospect that we wanted to look at, or our first players, are going to be Mark Palma, was the guy who I really was interested in. But I also found Felipe Ayala is what I'm going to assume it is. Good contact, decent vision, decent power, kind of an all-around bat here. I'm going to add him to the queue in case Palma is gone. I think Palma is still priority in this case. I do really like Palma. I think he fits a little bit more of what we are looking for. Like I said, a lot of pitchers. So as we go, we can see there's a ton. Ron Gonzalez, not necessarily as good as I was hoping he would be, but still has a lot of power, just a little bit further away. Looked at the catchers too. I really thought this guy was going to end up being really good. He will still be decent, but he's going to be gone before we end up taking anybody like him. If I look at the third baseman, nobody else really at third base was very interesting. I mean, we have a little bit of kind of a variety here, but probably nobody who we're going to end up taking. This will end up being likely a very, very pitcher heavy draft. I really like Spencer Wilga. Plays a decent amount of positions. I like his contact and his vision discipline. This is a guy who will get on base a lot. But he's not going to be pick 4 for me. So if he's still there at 39, he will definitely be the pick, but I just don't expect him to still be there. Same thing with like Ayala. Do have a few decent late guys here, but nothing really special. So mainly, we're going to be probably loading our system in pitching here with both starters, relievers throughout. I generally am going to focus on these guys that have this not ranked. I'm going to add them to the queue simply because they can be my great late 5th and 6th round picks that we are going to be looking for. Not really much outside of that. Like if I'm looking at a lot of these guys, they don't have a whole lot special about them. They might just be guys and fodder for our system to kind of go into the system and be somebody who has a high potential rating, might have a little bit of value for other teams, and that could end up giving us a good guy. So a lot of different opportunities here with different pitchers that like I haven't even really looked that close at. If we look at some of the relievers, didn't really see much of these like, you know, low draft rank, high potential guys that I like in the reliever position. Did have Andres Duarte, who I really, really like. He is probably going to be somebody who we are going to draft if he is available. So let's get into this draft and see what happens. Hopefully we see 3 pitchers off the board and Palma does not go. That's who I want the most. So we're going to start and see what Cleveland's got to take. Robert Ricks. Okay. Not one of the guys that I was really interested in. I do think Gil will be gone by the time that we end up getting to him. Gil is probably the best. There goes Gil. And so that makes my pick a little easier. Gil was the only one who I was really considering versus Palma. And Otto Blank. So 3 pitchers. Back to back to back. We want to take the more needed position in Mark Palma. So we're going to take Mark Palma. And then we are going to advance to our next pick. Art Blackburn still on the board. So if we look at any of these first round picks and kind of take a look at any of these guys, Ayala went right there. That was a guy I was really interested in. There goes Ronan Wells, a lot earlier than I would have wanted. So kind of didn't really luck out on that one. Caballero. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. I apologize as we go through. So Wilga's gone. Really liked Wilga, but makes sense that he would be gone. Otherwise, it doesn't really look like we got much options here as we look through this. I didn't see if my closers were gone. So Art Blackburn, kind of the top guy here. Espinoza will hopefully still be around, but it looks like all my other position players are gone that I wanted to draft. So I think we're going to prioritize Art. And we will advance to our next pick. And there goes Duarte. Maybe I should have taken Duarte, but all right. Let's look at some of the other scouted guys that we scouted. See if there's any other position players that we like before I draft an entire staff of all relievers. But it's not really looking like it. Some decent guys down here. Oliver Smith. Hank Bloom. Not that bad. He obviously won't play for a while. He's a little bit more well-rounded. Probably won't ever see him play for our team. Brent Robin. Another guy that we probably will never see play for our team. Fernando Fuentes. We'll never see. A lot of these position players, if I'm not going to see them, there's really no point in me signing them. I might just trade for more position players if I'm not going to get these guys. So, I like Grantham. Can I wait another pick before we have Grantham? We also have James here. So which one has more valuable stats to me? Probably James. Do I have any relievers that have any value here? Kind of like Polito. You know what? We're going to take Polito. Might seem like a dumb pick, but I think... Yeah, they're all still there. All right. Espinoza and James are still here. We and Grantham. Do I want Grantham or... Cesar Gonzalez is actually technically closer to being in the league. But I have not scouted him all the way. We're going to take James here. Next pick. Everybody's still there. We will take... Grantham. And Cesar Gonzalez is still there, but let's continue to look, see if there's any other types of guys we want. Oliver Smith is still technically around, and he's closer. Don't necessarily like his stats, but he is going to end up probably actually making our team closer to this than Cesar Gonzalez, who is still available. So, yep, we went with a lot of pitchers, a lot of pitching in our first draft here. We will get through the signing in a moment, and then we will do our trade deadline at the same time. So I'll come back, go through all the signings, show you what we got for everybody, and then we will also go through our trade deadline and sell off the rest of our team. As we approach the deadline, first guy that I want to move off is J.D. Davis. He is dealing with a $2.5 million contract. He's actually having a pretty decent season, hitting .269 with a good on base and a good slugging. So we're going to move him to the Orioles. They are in need of a third baseman on their playoff push, and they offered us Connor Norby. Generally, I wouldn't take a prospect this good, so I also threw them in Seth Brown in the deal as well. Another guy that I want to get off the contract, expiring deal, but fits two needs, can play first and center. So I'm trying to fill in all their needs, and they are interested in making the deal. So we will trade J.D. Davis to the Orioles for Connor Norby. The next guy we're going to move off of is Alex Wood. He's not having a really good year. He started off actually pretty decent, sitting at about a 3.6 ERA for a big part of the year, and I should have traded him then, but since then he started falling off. So we're not going to get a whole lot for Alex Wood, but we are going to go talk to the Cardinals, who offered us two kind of low-tier organizational depth prospects in return for Alex Wood as they make their playoff push. So we're going to move off the $8.5 million of Alex Wood for two depth pieces with the Cardinals, and they will accept that deal. And the last guy we're going to move off of is Scott Alexander. He wasn't having a very good season at the MLB, but he's doing really, really well in AAA, so he's kind of recouped a little bit of value so far this season, and with an expiring deal, we're going to move him over to the Texas Rangers, a division rival, for once again just kind of a low-level divisional depth piece organizational depth piece in order to just kind of continue to move and help the Rangers as they push for their playoff run to repeat. With those moves, we have a little bit of room up at our major league roster, so we're going to call up Luis Medina, move him up to the MLB, and we're also going to call up Brett Harris and move him up to the MLB to fill in those holes made by Alex Wood as well as by J.D. Davis. We also called back up Michael Kelly to fulfill our reliever role after moving on from I don't even remember the first corner Adams, the first reliever we traded. All right, so now's our first chance to get a look at our draft picks that we made, and based on the potential rating, looks like we did a really good job in this draft. So Mark Palma, really good contact stats, good clutch stats. I think he's going to end up being really, really good for us with an 89 potential as well. Could have been in the 90s, not bad for a 4th overall pick. Art Blackburn, great pick for that second pick in the second round. Decent stats, nothing really great to look at, but 93 potential, could end up being a really good pitcher in our system. Polito, pretty decent. 84 potential will end up being pretty nice for us to be able to use. Already has some pretty good hits per 9, walks per 9, home runs per 9 for us in our program. We can probably bring him up in about 2 years. Kenny James is nowhere near being up, but 94 potential. He'll probably just be a trade piece. Granum, once again, 85 potential. Nothing really spectacular. Probably a trade piece. Oliver Smith, kind of like his stats more, 84 potential. And I also kind of like Cesar Gonzalez's stats, actually a good amount with the hits per 9 and the walks per 9 being where they are. If we take a look around the league, McLennan was that catcher that I was really interested in, but he ended up 78 potential, not that bad, but not what I was looking for. So no real miss there. We're kind of gonna go look for some of those guys that I was really into, and see how they turned out, and see if anybody got any studs. Looks like as we move, Caballero, 84 potential, not too bad. So didn't get him. That was the 2nd overall pick. So not too bad missing out on him. That was actually a pretty good reliever there in Takahashi. Ron Gonzalez, good thing. We looked into him. He not good. He is 68 potential. Looked kind of like a bust. Will end up being, looks like a bust. Chris Gill, 95 potential. Looks like a stud. 73 already. He could probably start for them right now on their team. And absolute stud. You know, second overall pick. Actually, now that I think Caballero was up there, but wasn't. Now that I'm remembering, Chris Gill, probably the best pitcher in the draft. The Brewers knocked it out of the park with the two relievers they drafted, Fred Sable and Ashton De La Rosa. 92 potential, 91 potential. Drafted a great catcher. Missed on these two guys, didn't sign them, but fantastic draft for them. Cisneros, 99 potential starter. Lincoln Cisneros. This guy was available for us to draft. We didn't take him. 99 potential. Sucks to miss out on that, but I still like our picks that we got. Washington, Otto Blank, another really good pitcher at the top end of the draft that we were looking into but didn't get. Fernando Fuentes was a catcher I was looking at, but it was too low of a rating for me to be interested. But he'll end up being good in 2030. But still a little bit of ways away. Rico Cabrera, also pretty good, but really far away. So, you know, Rockies did a pretty good job in this draft. Nothing there. Robbie Rankin, missing out on your first pick is kind of brutal for them. Still haven't seen some of the guys that I was really into. Kind of liked Hartley a little bit. Carlisle right there was pretty good. McCann, not that bad of a guy that I was interested in. Where is Duarte? Rays got him. He's going to end up being a stud, I think. Hits per 9, Ks per 9. He will end up being a stud. Maybe we can talk to the Rays in the future, see if we can get Duarte off their hands. Segura, Rubio, Robert Ricks. That's the first overall pick. Not going to end up being that good. 24 hits per 9. This guy is going to suck. That is a bust at the first pick. Wow, good draft by the Tigers. Ayala ended up being pretty good, 91. Will probably actually get to the league faster than Palma. Wilga, very good as well. Makes sense why he didn't last in my second pick. Ronan Wells, another really good pitcher. Missed out on him, but I'm happy with our draft and what we've got. So we're pretty much just gonna kind of push our way through the rest of the season, get to the end, and take a look at the off season, because I don't believe we'll be making the playoffs. So at the end of the season, we went 67-95. We didn't make the playoffs, but that was kind of expected. We're not really a playoff roster. If we look through our team this past year, I think we actually had some decent showings. Schumann actually had a pretty good year. Didn't get on base as much as I would have liked, only having a 305 on base percentage, but for a rookie, that's not that bad, especially because he was getting a decent amount of hits. Those hit streak things kept popping up every once in a while. Lawrence Butler, not a really good year, 226, but once again, you're not really looking at much from rookies, especially with how many we had, but 281 on base is pretty rough. Abraham Toro actually was playing really, really well. Had a 300 average until the last 2 weeks of the season. So that's the increased role that I gave him. Probably hurt that fact a lot. Brent Rooker out here actually got 32 home runs. Slugged really, really well. 487 slugging. Looked pretty much almost identical to what he did last season. 137 games. A lot more at bats, but 32 home runs, pretty good for him. Zach Geloff showed out pretty well. 334 on base, 494 slugging. Pretty much what you want to see from a guy like that. Esteury Ruiz, 281 average, 337, was once again probably our best player. And Kyle McCann stole the spot from Shea Langoliers partially through the season. Hit 266, got on base a lot. Might be a big part. Playing catcher, will probably be on the team next season as well, where we are going to be running him. Looking at our bench, Ryan Noda did not have a very good year, but did at least walk a lot. Got on base, got 329 on base percentage. Not necessarily what we're looking for, but good year. JJ Bleday, pretty good. He was in the lineup for a lot of the time, but starting to kind of look decent. 354 on base, what we were kind of looking for. Shea Langoliers had a pretty bad year. but he's improving a good amount. Whether or not that will be with our team or if he's going to be a trade piece to let some of the other guys come in, that's a big question. We brought Brent Harris up, only got 60 at-bats. Soderstrom never actually came up, just that is the AI being the AI. Pitching rotation, Blackburn, 5 ERA, didn't look very good. 7-14, just gave 29 home runs. That's brutal. Waldachuk, 4.63 ERA. Not very good. 4.96 for Freddie Tarnock, who kind of took that starting position. Not very good. Boyle ended up kind of getting better at the second half of the season, but still pretty brutal. And Sears got better in the second half. None of our starters hitting our 4.2 ERA requirement. Luis Medina, we brought up, once again, not there either. Mitch Spence, 4 ERA. Decent, but nothing that I want to really see. Danny Jimenez, 4 ERA. He got worse after last year. Urseg, 4.8. Estes never played. Jack Jackson came up, 3.97, not that bad. Michael Kelly was brutal but with only 15 innings. And Mason Miller cooled off a little bit, but still a 2.12 ERA and 40 saves on this season for Mason Miller. He was our lone all-star on the offensive or on the pitching staff. If I go to I'm gonna have to go to our AAA, kind of take a look at some of the other guys that we had. Tyler Nevin was up. Didn't do very well. It looks like Andahar they called back down. Scott Schreiber I had called up, 210. Nothing really good there from him, and I don't think they sent anybody down to AA. I hate that they do this, but it's part of the game. If I look at AAA pitching, Kyle Muller, 4.97 up in the MLB this past year, wasn't very good. And I don't think we had any other guys on that pitching staff that got moved around. So not a very good season for us. Adrian Martinez. Okay. Not a very good season for us. So I'm gonna go into the playoffs. We are gonna look at some of the awards. I don't think we had anybody who would win an award. I don't even think we had any competition. Juan Soto wins the American League MVP. In the NL, it's Acuna with 45 home runs. Ohtani had 50. So pretty good from Ohtani as well. But the Braves kind of had a sweep. The Yankees did pretty well there with 48 home runs from Juan Soto. He is pretty much the perfect example of this on-base percentage and slugging, but the problem is, that we're the A's. This is why the money requirement is in this, because otherwise we would just go pick up Juan Soto because he would fit our on-base and our slugging percentage. Now, if we can get a good deal, maybe he'll be somebody who we're going to look at. Probably not, though. Cy Young goes to Nick Pivetta. 2.43 ERA for Nick Pivetta. Absolutely amazing season for him. And then Shohei Ohtani wins the Cy Young on the NL side, beating out Spencer Strider. In the American League, Juan Soto wins the batting title as well with a 3.36 average, and Acuna with a 3.48. So both those two get the sweep. Reliever of the year goes to Clay Holmes with 51 saves, 1.35 ERA. John Schreiber and Matt Moore are the other two guys there. David Bednar on the NL side. If we look at Rookie of the Year, we had nobody, sadly. Colt Keith wins it with 30 home runs, and Yamamoto with 3.2 ERA on the other side. Hank Aaron, so that means Juan Soto got the Triple Crown with his season, and Acuna did as well. So 2 Triple Crown winners in the same season with Ronald Acuna and Juan Soto. And looks like I'm just going to scroll through, see if we had anybody even in contention for any of these awards, but probably not. We had a pretty bad season. If we look at league leaders, gotta go back to the MLB. Juan Soto batting average. Really, I just kind of want to look at hits. We had 2 guys hit 200 hits. Oh, Yelich, a potential now. Okay, Yelich had a crazy season with 31 home runs. Yelich back. All right, and only one guy on that side getting 200 hits. Jeremy Pena getting 200 hits over here. If we go to 58 doubles for Ahmed Rosario, 52 for Corbin Carroll, 16 triples from Mike Trout. Home run leaders, Corey Seager had 49, so beat out Soto by 1. Then Alvarez, then Judge, and then Perez with a nice little comeback season here, hitting 40 home runs there. And on the NL side, Ohtani, Alonso, Acuna, JD Martinez hitting 44 home runs in his old man season. And if we go to ERA, just to see who's got the lowest ERA, Nick Pivetta and Zach Wheeler. I also like to check saves generally as well. I might have walked past it. I went past it. I also like saves. Evan Phillips with 46, John Schreiber with 53. So if we look at the American League, while he had a great season, he's still 12th in the American League with 40 saves. So we're going to sim to the offseason, see who wins our World Series. The Braves defeat the Mariners in the 2024 World Series. I'm going to say no because I want to see those stats. 4-2 series. So the Mariners kind of snuck up in there, got in that, and the Braves beat them. So the Braves get another World Series. Let's go look at that award. Who won the World Series MVP was Sean Murphy. And the postseason, Josh Rojas in the AL and Jared Kelenic in the NL. And they're probably so mad because they let Kelenic go. So on to our 40-man. We actually have a couple guys here that I want to keep around. So we're going to have to probably look around our roster, make some cuts, DFA some guys. So guys like, I think Brady Basso doesn't need to be on the 40-man. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think Beto needs to be on the 40-man. I think Andahar can go off the 40-man. Honestly, we can probably just DFA him. I don't think he does have 2 years of deals, but I don't necessarily want him around. I don't really see value of having him around. Maybe I won't DFA him yet, but we will remove him from the 40-man. And then I think we will also look at... I don't see any other guys that I necessarily want to just get rid of or cut. Maybe Michael Kelly. He did really, really well in AAA, but he was just so bad this past year. I don't necessarily know if I want to keep him around. I think we'll just remove him from the 40-man and drop him down to AAA. That should clear up our 40-man a little bit. I like to have some room generally because I want to I want to bring in guys that we can move up. So we need to get Jacob Wilson and Daniel Susac because I think those guys could be picked up. So mainly, first one, definitely Jacob Wilson being added to our 40-man roster. So it looks like he's going to be coming up this year. I thought that we were going to have a little bit more time with Jacob Wilson, but I guess he's going to be coming up. I could bring up Logan Davidson, but I don't know if I will. Daniel Susac has to go down to that 40-man for this year. Looking at the rest, I don't think that any of these guys get signed. If I lose Hoy Park or if I lose Newcomb or Davidson, I guess I should look at Davidson and Hoy Park, see if I really like them. Yeah, we can call up Hoy Park. I think he can go onto the 40-man. He looks decent in his first year. And Davidson, I don't really necessarily know much about him. He's not necessarily getting better. I think we'll leave him. If he gets picked up by somebody, he gets picked up. I don't think anybody else will get picked up, or I think we're okay for the rest of those. Arbitration, we are going to make an offer to just about everybody. I'll let you know who else we don't make an offer to as we go through our lineup. And then we also have some contracts that we need to renew as well. We're going to renew just about everybody on this team. So I'll catch up to you after I do those, and we'll take a look at free agency. So in our first look at the offseason, looking at our free agent opportunities, we're dealt with a lot of like high-level guys. So we need to make sure that we are not spending a whole lot of money. Thankfully, looking at our budget, I believe it's right here. We do have about $40 million to spend. Now, obviously not all of our arbitrations have gone through yet, so we should probably estimate that being a little bit lower. So we probably are sitting around, it looks like 12 million. So if we have 21 plus the 12 million that goes through, plus whatever arbitration, we have about $30 million to spend in free agency. Looking at our lineup and our rotation and what we have, we probably need a little bit more pitching. So we probably are looking at one more pitcher. We can probably get a reliever in the Rule 5 draft. So I'm not going to pursue a reliever unless there's somebody at a very, very good deal. For our lineup situation, catcher is set. First base, I think we'll be okay with Noda, but if there's a good value, we're going to go for it. Rooker is still going to continue to hold his spot. We have Geloff at second. Toro is going to be our third baseman, unless we also bring in Brett Harris. So we might have a little bit of a, oh my God, word. We might have a platoon situation. Thank you for my brain not working. A platoon situation. JJ Bleday had a really good season last year. So we're pretty much just going to try to get some talent in here, whether that's at short. I think will still be Schumann, but he didn't necessarily do great last year. Still a rookie. He hopefully developed a little bit. Look at the contact left boost that he ended up getting throughout the season. So outfield and other situations like that. If I look at free agency, we cannot afford Juan Soto, which could have been obvious. Cannot afford Corbin Burns. We could afford a guy like Pete Alonso, but he is not actually get on base as much as we would like. His slugging percentage is as high as I would generally assume I'd like, but I don't know if Alonso is going to be one of those guys we're looking at. $9 million a year, that's a lot of what our budget is for that. One guy that really does fit well into our projections is Tyler O'Neill. 370 on base. The question is, can he withhold that with how well he did the last 2 seasons? At $11 million per year, not a bad type of guy to go get if we are going to spend some money. I do think we're a little further away, though, so we're probably not going to much big here. We're going to go over. We might bring JD Davis back after his 364 on base percentage last season. Whether that's just a 1-year deal to try to move him off is a different question entirely. Honestly, guys like Willy Adames have a pretty low contract offer. There's some guys here that did not get a lot of money that we might be able to offer. A guy like Verdugo, who actually hits our on-base percentage metric perfectly on the dot, but this is also his best season. That was a career year for him. I don't necessarily know if that's what we want. Good slugging from Jock last year. So I'm going to look through, make a few offers to some guys. And see if we can sneak out some good guys for this on-base percentage and Moneyball system. Like I said, we're also looking at one pitcher. 2, I don't think we're going to go after a guy like Nick Pivetta, even though he did have an absolutely amazing season last year. We're going to avoid and try to pursue some of these smaller guys and just kind of fill up our roster as necessary. In the draft lottery, we have the 3rd best odds at 67 and 95. So hopefully, let's get ourselves a top 3 again, please. Preferably number 1. Want to give us number 1? I'd like number 1. Oh my God, we got number 1. After our first season wasn't much of a success, we went into free agency this past year with kind of a goal of just getting those on-base percentage guys, getting some potential players at least to fill our system. And I think we did that. We've done a good improvement of building up our prospect system as well as building up our lineups. So looking into this next season, our pitching rotation, the only move we made was we added Jack Flaherty, who does not hit a requirement of that 4.2 ERA that we were looking for, but he did have a pretty good whip, and also he improved a lot over where he had been the last season. And so I'm looking at hopefully he can be an investment for the future. If not, we will trade him if he doesn't end up performing the way that we want to. We kept the most of our rotation the same. We brought in Daniel Hudson on a very, very small $1 million deal. He had a .99 ERA last year. He is old. He's going to regress, but it's just more of he had a fantastic season, so we went for that. Julian Merriweather was our Rule 5 draft. He has not pitched in 2 seasons, but he did technically hit our requirement from where he was 2 years ago. So that's kind of the guy there. You can see we emptied out this bullpen a lot of what we had because we have a lot of guys of depth now. In our lineup, we went out and made a couple moves. So first off, you can see I have a lot of our lineup from last year sitting over on the bench. It's just kind of a platoon lineup this year in order to try to make things work. So Travis Janikowski was my main goal that I went after for our Moneyball roster. 373 on base percentage is just really, really good. While he doesn't slug very much, this dude gets on base, and that was kind of a big thing for me. It's a small sample size, I will admit. So I don't necessarily know if it's consistent, but one of the best on base percentages of available. Ty France, 348 on base. Another guy that slightly hit our requirement. There was a good signing, got him pretty cheap, $3.8 million for the next couple years. So we can kind of move forward. The big one that I got was Murakami. It's kind of ridiculous. I know the $70,000 deal, but whether or not this is basically our prospect that we are going to be moving forward with. We also went out and got Luis Guillorme just to hit righties because he hits righties very well, and he does get on base a lot when he is hitting righties. If we look at our prospect system right now, top prospects, adding some of these guys, these Japanese players does change things a little bit, but if we look at our prospects, we've actually got a little bit of movement. Jacob Wilson is now our 4th best prospect in our system, which he should be coming up probably this year, if not like the second half of the year. I would prefer to hold him off a little bit longer, but we actually have some good prospects now. So Kenny James, the pitcher that we drafted a little bit later last year, is our number 14 prospect. Art Blackburn, our 2nd round pick, is the 20th ranked prospect in all of baseball. As we go a little bit lower, Mark Palma, our 1st round pick, is the 43rd ranked. Murakami is the 48th, though I wouldn't really count him. Jacob Wilson has dropped down to 70th. And then Vince Granum is at 88. So we've done a pretty good job of improving our system a little bit. You can see a couple of these other guys that we've made some moves for. I traded for Cole Miller, I think was a signing that I made. I got Henry Bolt, I think just out of free agency. Maybe he was part of one of those deals. Connor Norby, and that Orioles deal for JD Davis was one of these moves that we've made. So there's our Christopher Torin for our trade with the Diamondbacks last year. So we're kind of building up our program, our minors, and that should put us in a good position. We have the 1st overall pick this season, so we're pretty much going to move through, talk about hopefully our lineup will perform as we need to. It's not very good yet. I want Murakami to end up being a pretty good player here for our lineup, but it's not very good yet. I hope that this lineup will end up developing. We have a lot of guys in the minors. My minor system is a mess. I did also bring in Tim Anderson. I hope that maybe he can come back a little bit to somewhere closer to this. He was a cheap deal, easy to get, and I just wanted to have him on the roster. I do like him, and we sent down Waldachuk and Tarnock and Spence, a bunch of guys down into the minors this past year, so including Scott Schreiber, also moving down into the minors as well from last year too. So we're gonna make some moves, kind of probably fill out our minor league roster, clean it up. Palma will be playing at Double-A at the beginning of this year, and I hope that he can perform very well because I'd like to see him. I love those stats. That is a perfect guy for our on-base percentage goals, and yeah. We'll move through the season, start scouting for the 1st overall pick. Maybe we'll get a generational prospect. And once again, this will probably be a rebuilding year. We'll probably make some moves at the deadline to continue to boost up our system. So I'm not really going to bore you with any of that. We're just going to move almost straight forward to the draft, unless I see some great prospects, we have a major injury, or we get a good trade offer throughout the season. So I will see you at the trade deadline, or the draft, whichever happens first. Technically, the draft. I'm backwards. Maybe we'll make a trade before then. Welcome to the draft, where we have our 1st overall pick this year. Now, sadly, looking through a lot of these prospects this past doing the scouting, I was really like hunting for something generational. And I couldn't really find anything. I mean, there's like this guy right here, but he's injured, so that's going to hurt him in the long run, so I'm not going to end up taking it. The number 1 prospect being a closer does not make me feel great, especially when my best player on my team is a closer. So, I mean, we're looking at Bill Benitez. I don't really like him, but I mean, if he's the top prospect, maybe you go with him. Maybe we go with Julio Juarez. He doesn't give up many hits. I mean, interesting guys there at the top. I don't think I see like any guy where I'm like, I need to have him. Like Tanner Crawford, like it a lot. The strikeouts per 9, walks per 9, his hits per 9 are going to be being pretty good. He's 18, so he's a little further away, but I like him. This is a guy who I'm going to add to the draft queue because he's a little bit further away, but ended up like good numbers there. One of my favorite guys was this Carlos Lerma guy, but I don't think I can take him with the 1st overall pick. I really hope he's still there with my compensatory pick in the 1st round. but I don't think he will be. Looking at a lot of the guys in this draft, that's kind of what we're dealing with. Like, I'm going to be able to really boost up our program once again. Same thing we did last year, just really be able to put a lot of guys into the organization. But man, like when we're swinging for top end talent with the number 1 overall pick, this is a bad year to have the number 1 overall pick. I did not, like, I was scouting primarily looking for first overall picks, and there just wasn't anything there. So if I look at relievers, nothing really. I mean, this guy could be interesting. I might add him to my queue if he's there at the end of the draft. Closers, only that guy. Catchers, interesting, but I'm not going to take him. Lerma, I like a lot, but he's really the only first baseman I like. Didn't scout any second or third baseman. I mean, there's some interesting, well-rounded guys late at short, beyond just Ken Beck. I do think Diaz is a little interesting. I'm gonna add him to the queue. It's tough. This was not a good draft for us, or like it's not going to be, at least. Like this guy, adding him to the list. Will he be good? I don't know if I like any of his numbers, but high potential, could end up being a good trade piece down the road. And we've got a few of those guys. Like there's a lot of decent guys that we're still going to be able to hit, but it does really suck when you have the top end pick like we do here, and there's just really nothing to make that worth it. So I think with the first overall pick, we will probably end up going, we just have to decide between Juarez and Benitez. I think the best bet, because they are both, I think we will go with Juarez, since he is a lefty. His hits per 9 is higher. His hits per 9 will always be higher. I think that is the more valuable thing to have of the two of them. So we're going to get into the draft. And with the first overall pick in this year's MLB draft, we are going to take... Oh my God, where'd he go? Oh, I didn't pin him. We are going to take Julio Juarez with the first overall pick. So we now have a number 1 overall pick in our organization. Julio Juarez is the guy. The second overall pick is Guadalupe Gallegos, one of the guys who looked good in the beginning. And the third overall pick, Rob Roberts, another pitcher. We're going to sim to our next pick. If I go take a look, Carlos Lerma went 12th, sadly. If we look at our top prospects here, are the guys that we scouted. Tanaka, still up there. Interesting guy there. I don't think we're going to get a single position player looking at this draft. I just don't see it. I don't really see much being here. The first guy that's decent is Jake Diaz, but I'm not going to take him. So we kind of just have to take, I mean, we can look at what the MLB rank has these guys at. Or our team rank. I just don't like these players that are available. Maybe I should have scouted. I think he's injured anyways. So this could end up being a pretty bad one for us, I'm going to assume. I think what we'll do is go for, I think we're going to go for the potential. We're going to go Tanaka here. And then with this pick, we will take Rhett Gold. With this next pick, we will take Duncan Gross. The next pick, we will take Kevin Alvarez. It is starting pitcher, starting pitcher, starting pitcher, every pick. I think out of these guys that we have, I'm going to take the reliever. Actually, we'll wait another pick. Oh, we could take Ayala. All right. This is probably a bad pick, granted. But I do want to take somebody that's not a starting pitcher, just so I have something that's not a starting pitcher. And that leaves us with Yoder or Bernard. I'm going to take Bernard, actually. And that's it. Not a good draft, to be honest. If you look at our team, we're 42-55 at the All-Star break. We've had some issues, mainly in the pitching department. We have some injuries. There have been moments in this season where we've looked really good. We actually started the first month off, if I look at the calendar, really, really well. Above 500 after the first month, but then we just went on some losing streaks. Lineup-wise, Jankowski has been very, very good for us. This was a very good pickup. I'm glad we got him. Ty France, he's cold right now, but he has been doing really well. He was hitting over 300 for the first 2 months. Ruiz is just getting off of a cold streak, but hitting very, very well. Shea Langoliers actually up to performing, and his slugging percentage, pretty good right here. That's something that's valuable. Geloff just got cold, but he's been hitting pretty well. Honestly, our offensive side of things have been very good. McCann has been phenomenal. Toro has at least been walking, but not very good. But Rooker has been awful this season so far. I don't want to get rid of him, but this has been brutal for him. I'm hoping he can improve. Even the bench, we've had some decent production from Anderson did in the beginning. Murakami, honestly performing not that bad. Sherman has been awful, or Schumann. Noda has been very, very good this season. So offensively, we're actually doing pretty well at fixing that. Now the pitching rotation, on the other hand, Blackburn and Flaherty are okay. Flaherty actually held a 3.0 ERA for a while, and he got shelled in like 2 games. But the back end of this rotation has been awful. Sears, Medina, Boyle, and you might be like, well, then why don't you send down Boyle? If I go to the roster, look at the starting pitchers of the guys that I brought up. Joey Estes, 7.13 ERA. In AAA, 1.38. That's insane to see that difference. JT Ginn, AAA, 3.79, 7.47 up at the major league level. So literally going into this next season, we are going to need to fix our pitching staff. The thing that sucks is we just drafted a bunch of pitchers. So I don't necessarily know what we want to do. We are going to have to make some moves. I might look at trading Blackburn. He's 31. He is hitting his thing, but he's on an expiring deal. I think we'll probably move on from him. Flaherty, I actually think we'll stick around with. He might be our ace of the future for now. Sears, honestly, has been awful. Our pitching staff has just been bad. Everyone except for Mason Miller is brutal in this organization right now. And we have some decent guys in here as well, but it's been bad. So Daniel Hudson is a 63 overall and still with 3.19 ERA. He is carrying our bullpen. So we'll probably make some trades, and then I'll show you what the ratings are. We'll do our ratings and our trades around the same time again for the trade deadline. But probably not another playoff year. We are out by 14 games, even though we had a good start. But I think we might be looking at maybe a wild card push either next year or in 2 seasons. Paul Blackburn ended up getting his ERA up a little bit, so I think I'm going to make the move now while I have a chance. And there is a team that is in need of pitching and one other position which we are in a desperate need of selling off, which is, I think it's about time to give up on the Shea Langoliers experiment. He is actually playing very, very well this year in regards to like where I think he would generally. He at one point got his average up to 250. He slugs very, very well. He's got a really good bat.
Can he hit?
Yeah, he's got a beautiful swing, right, Barry?
The ball explodes off his bat.
He throws the club head at the ball, and when he connects, he
drives it. It pops off the bat. You can hear it all over the ballpark.
A lot of pop coming off the bat.
And it's effort.
If he's a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good?
I'm going to add Shea Langoliers and Paul Blackburn, and we are calling the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are in desperate need because they are missing Gabriel Moreno, so they are without a catcher for their playoff push right now. So we're going to give them both players for basically one of their top shortstop prospects in Tommy Troy, one of their top pitching prospects or relief pitching prospects in Bryce Jarvis, and one of their top pitching prospects in Dylan Ray, and make that deal. And that will be our sell-off for the year as we start to move towards next season. So it's time to take a look at our draft picks. With the first overall pick, we took Julio Juarez, and honestly, he looks pretty good. Good hits per 9, 90 potential. Would have liked that number to be higher, but I think that that's all right when you consider that we really did not get a lot of good options. Sucks that this was the first overall pick that he's only a 90, but he should be up pretty soon. Depends. We got to see how he does in the minors. The hits per 9 is good, but the walks per 9 is pretty bad. He'll probably give up a lot of walks. Tanaka, 87 potential. Still kind of I think he's a little bit further away. Red Gold is a lot closer, 84 potential. He looks pretty similar to Juarez. Duncan Gross is pretty close, 83 potential. Alvarez, he won't be up for a while. He'll probably end up being a trade piece in order to be able to move. Domingo Ayala, 79 potential, not bad for that swing at first base. And then Brian Bernard, once again, guy who will not be up for a while. If we take a look around, that was one of the first basemen we were looking at. Basically, I just want to see if there's any guys that I feel like we missed badly when I look at all the other picks. Missing your first round pick is rough. So we will not know that. Benitez was the other guy we were thinking about. It looks like we made the right pick. Obviously, we won't know, but his walks per 9 is also really high. So it's the opposite of what we got with Juarez. But Benitez not bad as a pick. Well-rounded draft by the Phillies. Freddie Schroth was not a guy I looked at, though. So Guadalupe, they did not get their first round pick. Cubs missed out on Domingo, who was their first pick. They also missed out on another guy there. Christopher Neal, very good. This was a very good pick. Did not scout right fielders. If I would have, this guy probably would have taken the cake, knowing his numbers and what he has. So kind of feel like I missed out there on the Christopher Neal pick. Decent pick there. Ken Beck was somebody I looked at but wasn't interested. Didn't really see Dave Hobbs. Luka Clark was one of the top catchers. Looked at him, did not seem interested. Rob Roberts, that was the third overall pick. Good pick for them. Didn't really like him that much as I looked at him. Jake Diaz was that left fielder that we were looking at a little bit later that we didn't scout, but he's nowhere near, so not really interested in him. Tanner Crawford, decent, well-rounded. He will be up by next season. Honestly, with how badly we need pitchers, might have been a better pick than what we got, but good shortstop late in that draft for them. Merle Lorenz, that was one of the left fielders we were looking at. Actually kind of like his stats, but the 81 potential is a little, I wouldn't have wanted to waste the first overall pick on him. Gillett, Cardenas, Garland, did not see him. That's actually a pretty good player. That is that closer that was considered the number one guy in this draft, and Carlos Lerma, like him a lot too. I do think that we just kind of got unlucky with how this draft ended up turning out. We got a bad roll on the draft odds in this one, so Julio Juarez will end up being part of our system. I think we drafted decent in this draft, but would have still liked a better number one overall pick. As we look at where we're at, we are still technically not that bad. We're not going to end up being the worst team this year. 48-63. We made our moves already in our pitching staff, so we're going to lose a lot more games for the rest of the year. So we're just going to kind of jump to the end here so that we can look at our stats. But kind of a rough season. Our pitching staff has been absolutely brutal this year, so we are just going to have to kind of move forward and look at that in the offseason. So we finished this season at 69 and 93. I actually don't think that it was that bad of a year for a little while. We were looking pretty good, and like if I were to go and look at our actual like GM goals, we did improve by 2 games. Our pitching staff was just so bad this year that I think we were in a position where we really didn't have much. I think Flaherty was a good move. While he didn't hit our ERA target, I think that he will get better. He is improving every season. So I think that we actually have a shot to have a good pitcher right here. This might be our ace. Brought Waldachuk in 408 for like the second half of the year after we got rid of oh my god, I blanked on it. I'm blanking on his name. Who is the pitcher that we traded? I already forgot. He is on the Diamondbacks. Paul Blackburn. Blackburn had a great year. Maybe we should have given him an extension, but honestly, I'm satisfied with what we did trading him. Hopefully those prospects will end up coming in handy. JP Sears did get a little bit better throughout the rest of the year. Still not good enough. Medina did get better throughout the rest of the year. Still not good enough. And Joe Boyle was awful. I honestly think he's got to go. Daniel Hudson had a great year for a 38-year-old pitcher. With a 2.93 ERA. Muller improved a little bit. Still not necessarily what we want. Mitch Spence looked good. I think that has been a good player on our roster. Jarvis came in after that trade. Pretty decent. Zach Jackson, pretty good. I don't know why Tarnock's over here. I think this is the postseason roster change because Tarnock did not play for us all year. If I go to our lineups, we will probably see a little bit of a mess there. Yeah, because they brought up these guys who did not play. So first, let me go fix that because that's going to annoy me because actually we had... Oh, I can't. Whatever. So let's go to the AAA first. Look at these guys. Max Schumann, horrible season. I don't know if I can really stick with this guy as anything more than a utility bat. That was bad. Tim Anderson, not that bad. Actually improved. We only had him go against lefties, and I think he did get better than where he had been the year before. So I think we've seen a little bit of improvement. Nick Allen, he's probably gone. I know he's got 5 more years left, but I'm done with that. I'm done with him on there. So when we go to our actual major league roster, Toro started off the year a lot hotter. He was actually hitting 300 for a while in the beginning of the year. Did cool down. I don't know if we want to keep him around much longer. We might trade him in the off season. He's decent. He's just not necessarily what we're looking for. Noda, very good year for him. 279, 379 on base percentage. I do think he has improved enough where he will continue to be on this roster. JJ Bleday had a good year last year, but he just had a bad year this year, and it sucks because he actually improved statistically, but did not do very well. Janikowski, exactly what we were looking for. I think this was a fantastic signing. We have him for 2 more years, and it looks like he's improved, so we'll keep him around. He'll be part of the lineup next year. Ty France, fantastic signing as well. His on-base percentage is slightly below our goal, but he was hitting like 300 for a lot of the year until the end point. So Ty France will be here to stay. Ruiz really got worse throughout the season as the season went. But I still think he brings in a lot of value with his speed and his defense. So I will keep him around. Guillorme, fantastic signing, 440 on base percentage in 400 at bats. That is a great season for Luis Guillorme. Kind of exactly what I'm looking for. Zach Geloff, pretty good too, 335 on base percentage, basically what we were looking at last year. Soderstrom brought up after we got rid of Shea Langoliers, and he already played better than Shea Langoliers in the 188 at bats that he got. So Langoliers is gone. Soderstrom will take his spot for the next season. Kyle McCann is going to continue being the other catcher on this lineup. I don't necessarily know which guy will start over the other. We might have both of them. Murakami had 26 home runs in his rookie season. Did pretty well. On base, not as good as I would have liked. Didn't get a lot of walks. And Rooker did warm up in the second half of the season. Didn't get to the numbers we were hoping for, but still got to about 30 home runs and actually had a pretty decent season. So lineup wise, I actually think we're in a pretty good spot. We'll probably adjust our bench lineup a little bit. I do think Jacob Wilson is going to come up next season. I think that it is time for Jacob Wilson on this roster. So that is what we're going to be looking for there. If we go to the awards, we might have gotten one. AL Rookie of the Year, Munetaka Murakami, which makes sense if you consider his ratings. MVP goes to Aaron Judge. Ronald Acuna gets a back-to-back or 3 in a row on his side, absolutely dominating with another 50 home run season. Cy Young goes to Corbin Burns on the Texas Rangers. He did sign there in the offseason, did not take the $100 million deal from the Orioles, instead took one from the Texas Rangers, so we have to deal with him in our division. Spencer Strider wins the Cy Young on the NL side. If we go to the batting title, we have Corey Seager and Juan Soto on the Pirates. For the rest of our American League awards, Clase takes the reliever of the year. Murakami right there with his rookie of the year, beating out Bryce Mata, who had a 5.75 ERA. That is ridiculous that he was even in this competition. So Murakami easily wins that out there in that award. So as we look, did anybody else? McCann back up for second place for the Gold Glove catcher to another former A out here. So lost that. Ty France wins the Gold Glove at first base. I know Gold Gloves don't matter a lot, but Zach Geloff at second. So our guys are actually getting better defensively. Silver Sluggers, does not look like we had anybody really in that competition. If we go to league leaders, just to look at some of our stats, batting average here, Corey Seager led the league with 318 and Juan Soto on the other side at 338. Hits, we had 2 guys hit 200. Luis Urias and Ronald Acuna Jr. Nobody even close from our teams. If we look at doubles, Asturias Ruiz, 43 doubles. I didn't even really look at that much, but he is actually getting a little bit more power in his bat. I know that's not necessarily, but that contact left did go down a lot in that second half of the season, so I was a little frustrated by that. But good batting by Ruiz to get that many. The triples are dominated by the Orioles. Home runs led by Aaron Judge and Mike Trout, and then Acuna and Betts on this side. If I go to the ERA, well, first saves, the National League, Brusdar Graterol with 60 saves for the Los Angeles Dodgers and a 2.14 ERA. Amazing season for Graterol to take that closing spot. That is near the record, actually. I know it's not but it's getting close. There, and Mason Miller 10th with 39 saves this year for us. So we're kind of looking at that ERA. Zach Gallen, I was actually going to attempt to make a move for Jose Urquidy, and I feel bad that I did not go after it. That is a great year for Jose Urquidy. Jake Junis 2.93 ERA, another guy I was looking at and considering in free agency. So I feel like we missed a couple on the pitching staff side of things, so we will have to go make some moves this offseason. So we will sim to the end of the offseason, and the World Series is the Dodgers defeating the Rangers. So let's go take a look. The Dodgers kind of clean house against the Rangers there in the World Series. I actually didn't look. How many games did the Dodgers win? 111. So awards for the World Series. Ohtani wins World Series MVP, and postseason MVP goes to Corey Seager on the AL side and Ohtani on the NL side. First move we're going to make at the offseason is we're going to dump Joe Boyle over to the Rays for a relieving prospect named Jacob Lopez. We need more relievers and more bullpen arms, and also Joe Boyle has been awful. Needing to clear out some more of our 40-man roster. We're going to move off of Jordan Diaz really before he even got a shot, simply just because I don't have room for him. So we're going to trade him to the Mariners for another relieving prospect. In the same vein, we're also going to move off Hoy Park. I don't think he'll ever get a shot up on our roster. I do actually like what he has to offer, but I don't think he'll ever really get a shot with us. So I'm going to trade him over to the White Sox for a first baseman. The last move like this we're going to do to clear up our 40 man is we're going to move off of Freddie Tarnock, and we are going to trade him for 2 relievers in the Rockies system. We won just enough games to be slightly lower this year in the bottom or in the top 7. We can hope that we can boost ourselves up, but it's probably not likely this time. I don't think we're going to get a top 3 pick 2 years in a row. Like I said, sucked that last year we had a top pick and it ended up being what it was. But hey, we have the 3rd overall pick this year. Maybe we're going to get another good swing at this. That's great. So we might be able to draft really, really well again here going into this next season. Just continuing to build up our farm. Starting season 3, our Oakland A's are going to look a little bit different this year as we've made a few moves in the offseason. Still one of the worst ranked teams, but I did decide to actually go out and spend some money. You can see we are at our limit of $67 million this year. You might have also seen who is on that deal that we're looking at. But first things first, we need to look at our pitching rotation. So the starting lineup's not necessarily going to be great yet this upcoming year, but we did go out and add Mike Soroka. Once again, this is another prove-it deal in the same way that I did the Flaherty deal, where I did give him a couple years on the deal. Same exact contract structure, $4.5 million per. It is a little pricey for a pitcher of this caliber, but if it ends up working out, like I do believe it will with Flaherty, and maybe it will with Soroka as well, we'll be put in a position where we'll have 2 guys on $4.5 million deals long-term to be able to be the mainstays of the rotation. Maybe they're not going to be the aces, but they will be big pieces to what we are attempting to do in our Moneyball build here. Waldachuk, Sears, Medina will fill out that. In the Rule 5 draft, I went out. Sixto Sanchez was available as a reliever. I feel like you just have to. Even though he is not necessarily going to fit my requirements based on last year's season, he's too good to just kind of let sit around. Bickford has not played in a couple years, so we don't necessarily know, but his numbers would prove that I believe that he will. Bryce Jarvis in the bullpen. So our pitching staff looks a little different, but we just basically boosted up a little bit. The starting rotation still not good enough, I don't think, but it will hopefully do, and these guys will hopefully continuously improve. Now the lineup is where we actually made some moves that are special. Luis Arias. If there is a player that is considered the perfect guy for this simulation, it is Luis Arias. He is on base a lot. 379 last year, good slugging last year, but he gets a lot of hits. He had one down year here, but this 393, 375, that seems to be more like where he normally sits at. So we are going to expect a lot from Luis Arias. He's going to be our leadoff batter forever. So we're going to end up having him at the top of our lineup. With Guillorme, we brought him back to play a little bit of a platoon. We also went out and got Kyle Schwarber. Good, cheap deal. Got $5 million per on the deal, including a team option. Basically, that's our slugging percentage right there. How are we going to get home runs? Schwarber, Rooker, Murakami. How are we going to get on base? Arias, Guillorme, Jankowski, and then some of the other guys. Soderstrom will be platooning with McCann at catcher, and Jacob Wilson is up. You will see him on the lefty lineup playing this year for the first time. Will he compete for the Rookie of the Year? Probably not, but I honestly don't think his stats are good enough to do so. Against lefties, he is very good. He will be a great platoon bat, hopefully, against lefties, but we won't necessarily know. We still have Tim Anderson around on this roster. AAA-wise, I don't really think I made any changes. We did put Schumann down. We pushed him down. Hopefully, he can develop a little bit more. If not, I think we'll end up moving him. Norby might just end up being a piece that we will end up moving in order to try to get better. Same thing with Butler. I think there's a couple guys in here, especially this group right here. These are a lot of the prospects that are in their system right now that I think will be gone when we actually start contending here. Our pitching prospects, obviously we don't have a whole lot of guys yet that are close. We have like Oliver Smith, which was a guy that we drafted. Most of our pitching prospects I think I still have down in single A. Kenny James down here, Julio is down here in single A, Art Blackburn is down here in single A. So we still have a lot of guys there. If we look at our top prospect list, We do have Kenny James sitting at 11, which I think is a little bit of an improvement of where he was last season. Blackburn at 19 as we continue to move forward. Kevin Alvarez and Julio Juarez down at 34 and 35. Mark Palma down to 51. He's still not necessarily looking like a great prospect, but the hope is that he'll develop and he'll end up being able to come up soon. He actually does look like he could come up like this season. Obviously, I'm not going to bring him up because we have so much guys. We are going to need to start consolidating some of our talent. I think we actually have a lot of players now in our farm system that are looking good based on the amount of moves that we have continuously made every season to keep making trades. If I look at the top prospects, even within our system, we've got a lot of guys here now. A lot of different guys where like Dylan Ray is a 71 overall pitcher, a good prospect. He's number 19. Daryl Hernandez is down to number 20 in our system. So we've got a lot of good players here that we've drafted, mainly pitchers. So I think soon we're going to start consolidating some of this, attempting to move it forward as we try to build our roster. We do have, I think within our budget, if we're going to look at anybody to move, Jankowski could be moved this year. I do think Yorme could be moved. Schwarber, if things don't work out, will probably just be gone. So that $67 million of the budget is going to end up being a little tight in the beginning. There's a couple guys here like Rooker, who is going to be expensive. Mason Miller's already to $2.4 million on his arbitration. Zach Jackson's at 1.7. So we're dealing with some expenses. Now, luckily, the way that I structured the Luis Arias deal is set up for this. It's front loaded. I want him to be a little bit cheaper when we actually are contending, because I do think Arias is an essential piece to building this type of roster as we go forward. So we are going to move into this next season. We are going to kind of skim through. We have pick 3 in the draft this year, and hopefully we can start to kind of contend for a wild card spot. I don't know if we'll be close yet, but the hope is that we will be able to contend, have some good output from guys, and maybe be able to consolidate some of these prospects for a good cheap piece at the deadline time. We're going to jump in here. This is June right now. We are up to 36 and 26. And most importantly, you can see on this screen right here that we have in our last 10 won 10 games. We are in a 12-game winning streak going into from the month of May to June. And in that time, if we look at our MLB ranks, which I need to go, not league leaders, team rankings, you'll find our batting average has moved up to 3rd, and importantly, our on-base percentage has moved up to 4th at 346. And we are playing absolutely phenomenally right now. Obviously, the top 3 teams that are above us are the 3 juggernaut teams. And you might be like, the Pirates. Look at Juan Soto and Vlad Guerrero on that roster right now. So we are playing very, very well right now on a 12-game win streak. I normally wouldn't jump in to like show this, but we do want to look because we do have the Dodgers next, which will likely be the end of this. So we will sim through this. Looks like we are losing. Maybe I'll have to jump in, play a little bit, just to see if I can advance this win streak a little bit with Luis Guillorme, just for fun. Take a look at what this A's team actually looks like right now, as we have Guillorme on first, and good contact right there. We might be able to extend this with a double for Luis Guillorme. I'm feeling the vibe. This is the streak right now. We've won 12 in a row. Guillorme going to stay in there for Luis Arias. One Luis to the other as we go against Tony Gonsolin. And Luis gets on base. That's what we do here. We get on base. Probably could have made it, but I didn't want to risk it. We've got men on the corners up just in time for, I believe this is Ty France, who is right now our leader in on-base percentage. One of our best bats that we have right now. And that should be deep enough. That is deep enough. That is a walk-off double with Ty France to extend the streak to 13 games as we continue to move forward. So I'm not going to jump into the next ones. If we lose the next one, we lose the next one. I just wanted to jump into one to see what it would feel like with Oakland. So here we are. Let's advance to the next day. We win again. That's 14. Mike Soroka versus Shohei Ohtani. And we lose. So 14 games, but hey, that's a good streak. They put us into playoff contention. We are now 1 game back of the Rangers in the AL West. Looking at scouting and stuff right now, we are actually doing pretty well. Have a few guys up at the top that I'm liking, but we might be actually in contention as we move to the deadline. Right now, we are an actual wild card team, 4 games up on the Orioles, and so we're going to look forward to continue, maybe make a move in the pitching staff because our ERA is still awful. Our pitching rotation is bad. JP Sears is playing well, but Soroka 5.5, Flaherty 5.3. Those two clearly have not worked out. Our bullpen is struggling down here with Bickford and Jackson, but Mason Miller is doing well. Jarvis, Spence, Sixto, and Muller are still kind of hitting their goals, but yeah, our pitching is still pretty poor. So we'll go forward, hopefully be still in contention at the halfway point, and then we might make a buying move for once, but we'll have to see. All right, at the MLB draft, I would say that this is one of the best scouting ones we've had. Honestly, I'm kind of upset that we didn't have the first overall pick this year because I believe we found ourselves a generational talent with the old man looking Joe Garcia. I don't know if he's going to be available for us, but even then, Anthony Perkins looks like a very good prospect, as well as Rick McCormick. There's a lot of really good talent up in this draft this year. But McCormick probably won't end up being one of the picks that I would take at the top end if it's a guy there, because there's also some good pitchers like Jonathan Kelly here, who would probably be a later pick, but David Owens is my other option of my top 3, simply because he looks like he'll be up in the next year or so. Already has a lot of really good talent, is a well-rounded player, has a lot of chances to end up being pretty good. So we are really going to end up drafting pretty well, I would say, this year, especially when you're considering how we did last year in the draft. A lot of really good players in this class that I like a lot. Like I said, the only thing that I'm worried about is, because I don't have the first overall pick, is that I probably won't get the guys that I want compared to the guys that I would normally be able to pursue in a draft. So I'm going to go through here. We're going to pin all of we looked at that guy last year. We already know a lot about him. Okay, Cyrus Yoder. Those are both guys that I remember scouting last year, so they must not have gotten drafted last year. So we have a few options, I guess, some guys later that I didn't necessarily think I'd see again. I just saw those 2 names. I was like, wait a second. We know those names. We saw those guys. I'm going to go to some of the other positions quick because I do think that, once again, we are looking at drafting preferably not just pitchers this year, but there wasn't a whole lot of guys outside the top and that I was able to really scout. I think that there's still a decent amount of guys. We might take a swing late. We have a lot of picks this year. We have 2 firsts, 2 seconds. So we might just take a swing on another type of player late. Otherwise, you know how we are normally doing, just going after grabbing all the pitchers that we can. Because I do think that contending right now, we are likely going to end up trading some of our picks. So let's hope that nobody takes our generational prospect, Garcia. We have pick 3. So Joe Garcia, please last past the Giants and the Red Sox. That looks like that would be a pitcher. David Owens. I liked him a lot. So David Owens goes number 1. That was another guy I really liked. There's one of the guys off the board. This looks like it's Garcia. It is not. It is Mariano Villarreal, whatever you say it. We're taking Joe Garcia. We might have just found a generational prospect in this draft. Joe Garcia coming to the Oakland A's during one of our best seasons. So we'll see what we have in our next first round pick. I did see Jonathan Kelly was still there. Anthony Perkins goes. Bryant Cooper goes. Oh, not a guy that I was really looking at there. Is the other center fielder that we liked still there? All right. We're going to take Johnny Logan. He's still there. That is another positional player that I really like in this draft. So we're going to take that. Looking around at some of the other picks, obviously we have more right fielders. We're not going to take those. Let's put our team rank up here. Actually, yeah, team rank. So right now we have Jonathan Kelly as our top ranked guy, Frank Santiago as our second ranked guy. Do we have any other position players that we like a little bit? We might just go with Jonathan Kelly would be a good safe pick. But I think Kelly will still be around because he is one of these not ranked players. So we're going to go with Frank. We're going to take the risk that Jonathan Kelly will still be there. And he is. So we will draft Jonathan Kelly. Then we will draft... I think we will go with Waller's not going to be around. He's one of those guys that is going to be sitting around for a little while. We'll take Cyrus Yoder. Then we will take the last guy in our ranking of the top 100. We will advance to our next pick. Do we have any other guys scouted that look interesting? I'm going to take this. Ooh, which swing do we want to take? Donnell Haynes. I like the potential rating. I don't necessarily know if he'll end up being good. Garcia, I don't like the potential rating. I think we'll just go with Haynes. Potential rating higher, maybe he'll end up being better. If anything, he will probably end up having more trade value. So we are 53 and 42 right now. Looking around the league at some of these other teams, we might go talk to some of these bad teams to see if they have any really good pitchers that we can make a move for. Team like the Nationals, maybe. See if we can end up grabbing a pitcher off of them. The Rockies generally don't have any pitching staff on their, or pitchers on their staff. So we're going to go talk to a few teams. Let's go look actually quick before we do this. What do the Nationals have in their pitching staff? The Nationals are right here. They have Roki Sasaki and Mackenzie Gore. This would be actually a good one because both of them are still pretty cheap and we are still going to be on the edge of our money. So I think we're going to go talk to the Nationals, see if we can get one of these guys, preferably Sasaki. Otherwise, Josiah Gray, not a bad guy either that we might end up going after, 2.6 million. But Sasaki is our main target that we will end up taking. We're going to make the deal for Josiah Gray. We're going to have to send them Dylan Ray, one of our top prospects in our system, and Junior Perez. But we will end up getting a pitcher for this year that is still quite cheap for us right now, but that might push us over our budget. So we're going to have to make another move in order to balance this out. Continuing to try to move some money as well as to try to get a better pitching staff, we are going to go look at Ryan Pepio of the Tampa Bay Rays, who is on a $1.9 million contract. We are going to call up and give them Muller, Luis Morales, and prospect Jorge Barosa. That'll cut $1 million off our cap and also bring in another starting pitcher. Continuing to go all in on this season because we're having such a good year, I'm going to go make a deal for Tyler Holton of the Detroit Tigers. They are last place in their division with a 2.17 ERA. It's just going to be hard to pass up a guy like this. So we're going to package Zach Jackson and Joey Estes into this. That way we don't move up our salary too much. I believe I probably could have made this move with just Joey Estes. So I also threw in another prospect here, but we had to move that money because otherwise we would have went up too much. So offering this trade, and we have another bullpen arm. And another bullpen arm off of the Rockies. We have Radiel Martinez. He's got a 4.4 ERA. It's not great, but he can replace one of the other arms in us, and he's still pretty cheap. So we're going to add him as well. But now it's time to take a look at our draft picks and see what we got for Joe Garcia. And look at that. He is a generational talent, A potential, 79 overall, well balanced, 99 potential. Dude is an absolute stud. This guy was a can't miss guy. I can't believe he actually fell down to us at 3. So while we didn't have the first round pick this year, we ended up getting him. That was pretty good. Johnny Logan, also pretty good, 84 potential. This dude could make our lineup pretty soon here. We have another just a run of great guys here. Frank Santiago, 92. Jonathan Kelly, 88 overall, or 88 potential. Probably will never play it for us. Kelly will be a trade piece down the road. Derek Waller also will probably never play for us, but 90 potential, might be a deal down the road. Cyrus Yoder, also likely will never play, but another trade piece. Iwamara was not as good of a pick, but Donnell Haynes, that was just a swing on a random player, and he looks like he was pretty good too. I do want to take a look. Anthony Perkins was 93 overall, so he was also pretty good. Would have been likely the best player of last year's draft. So I was right when I said that, like, not having the first round pick this year kind of sucked, but it ended up not mattering because we got the best guy. But Anthony Perkins, really good right here. If I move through further, look at some of these other guys I didn't see. I want to see some of the top guys that I looked. 2 good picks there by the Cubs. Jared Moya, Salcedo, Castillo. Didn't really take a look at him. Baroa was actually pretty good. This is just a very good draft in general. Roger Mendoza, I don't remember scouting him. 95 potential, 62 overall. The Rockies have been drafting really, really well in this draft. Dodgers with a swing and a miss. That's always a good thing to see. The Padres there. David Owens, 87 potential, 72 overall. Would have been great anyways. So that was my one of my top guys that I would have picked too. And Villarreal was not bad either. Like a lot of really good prospects this class, but we ended up pulling out the best guy. So as we move forward, trying to make our playoff push, we're 62-49. I think we can do it. We are currently in the league. If I look at our statistics, we are second in batting average, but more importantly, we are third in on-base percentage. So we are having a fantastic year right now, and hopefully this playoff push can continue to occur in year 3 of our A's Moneyball rebuild. And just like that, 88-74, we have made the postseason as a wild card team, and we'll be playing our division rival, the Rangers, in our first series. So let's go take a look at our lineup and how everything ended up turning out. So pitching rotation, I think we had to make some changes. I think they messed with our rotation a little bit, brought Waldichuk back up when I put him back down. So rotation wise, so actually let me go fix that first before we end up starting this up, because I don't want you to do that. Why do you always do this? Remove. Okay, great. He had a 3.98 ERA, and you're like, I don't know if he's worth it. So we're gonna move him from the playoff roster while the Chuck will go back down. This is our pitching. I think we need to bring Spence back up as well. But we need to, yeah. Spence we are gonna call back up. It is raining and thunderstorming loud, so I hope that you hope that's not too annoying if you can hear that. If not, then good for you. Let's see. We have to bring Jacob Wilson back up. Who else is up right now that's not supposed to be up? Not Jacob Wilson. One other person who's not supposed to... Oh, Jacob Lopez. Lopez actually had a 1.0 ERA. We might just keep him up. and bring Spence back down. So we're going to bring Tim Anderson back up. Tim Anderson has been very, very good for us in his role and is starting to kind of return back to normal. So we're going to call him and put Spence back, remove Mitch Spence. So looking at our pitching rotation, our bullpen. Medina, we moved him to the bullpen halfway through the year. He wasn't necessarily great, 5 ERA, but that's why we moved him to the bullpen. Sixto Sanchez was very good in his role, 3.98. It's a little high, but like as a long reliever, playing 75 games, that's pretty good for him. Bryce Jarvis, 3.86. Tyler Holton after our trade, as well as plus the other deal, 2.39 for his entire season. We got to thank Detroit for that deal. Jacob Lopez had 1 ERA in his. Rydell Martinez had a 3.6 in his deal. His potential even went up, so thank you, Colorado. Mason Miller got rocked a little bit in the middle of the season, but he ended with 50 saves throughout this year, so I can't really be mad. 3.68 ERA is a little high, but he had a fantastic year. Pitching rotation, Jack Flaherty. 4.76 ERA this season. Still a little high from what we want, but thanks to our trades, we got Josiah Gray at a 3.6, Ryan Pepio at a 4.13, JP Sears improved, gotten himself down to a 4.05, and Soroka got himself down to a 4.31. So our worst pitcher was Jack Flaherty, but honestly, pitching staff, slightly worse than average, but it is all made up for when you consider just how good our lineup was this past season. Just on our bench, we have Tim Anderson here, 338, 407 on base percentage, hitting what we needed him to do. Tyler Soderstrom looking great, replacing Shea Langoliers. Honestly, I think we made a good move there, moving on from Langoliers. 326 on base percentage, a little low, but he came in, did pretty well. A slugging percentage the same as on base, so he never really did much beyond that. Ryan Noda had a fantastic year, 393 on base percentage. Ruiz kind of moved down to a bench role in this position, but speed off the bench, 324 on base, that's what I can look for. Geloff had a little bit of a rough year, but we just moved him to the bench partially through the year. Guillorme hit 300 this year, 395 on base percentage, 393 slugging. Great to return to him. Luis Arias, great pickup, 342 on base, technically still lower than what we wanted, but with 187 hits and in the slugging that he did, I'm pretty happy with having Luis Arias. Ty France, just another really good average season, 341 on base percentage. Murakami, 340, hitting 21 home runs and 265. Brent Rooker is still regressing, so I think we might move him in the offseason. I like him, but he is getting worse. Ratings wise, he's not, but his on-base percentage and his stats are getting worse, so I think it's time to move on from him. Janikowski, just once again showing why we made that right move, looking for on-base percentage. Just 3 years in a row, 3.73, 3.72, 3.71. He has been great for us. Jacob Wilson, rookie season, 317 on base, not necessarily crazy, but I think he had a pretty good rookie year playing 123 games. Schwarber, being Schwarber, hitting 42 home runs for us. And Kyle McCann having a great year, hitting 395 and 328 as an average out of the catcher position. Absolutely phenomenal for us. Let's go to the awards for this season. Corey Seager with the most valuable player, with Schwarber getting runner-up right there with his 42 home runs. And part of that is due to the fact he played 162 games, but thanks Schwarber in that backup. On the NL side, Shohei Ohtani wins MVP, so ruining the Acuna streak there. Cy Young, Corbin Burns, back-to-back Cy Youngs on the AL, and Glasnow taking the Cy Young on the NL side. Just going to move back through the AL here. Bichette on the Tampa Bay Rays with 28 home runs gets the batting title. Reliever of the year goes to John Schreiber of the Kansas City Royals. That ERA of Mason Miller probably is what killed him because he did have 50 saves. Rookie of the year goes to Spencer Horwitz. No Jacob Wilson in that at all. Hank Aaron goes to Adley Rutschman. Shohei right there. Any awards for us around the rest? Guillorme third and Gold Glove at second base. Silver Slugger, DH, Kyle Schwarber. That was a good move for us. Luis Arias, another move that we made. So most of those were those free agent signings. If we look at league leaders, we didn't have any. Batting average was Bo Bichette on the Rays. Hits 208 for him on the Rays, and Arias had 187 in the AL. That is, Ozzie Albies was the only one with 200. If we go across 2 home runs, Seager led the league with 45 and 42 for Schwarber. On the NL, it was Shohei and then Ozzie Albies in the second place position. If we go to our ERA leader, our saves leader first, Mason Miller finished third with 50, Schreiber at 51, Strom at 51. On the NL side, Edwin Diaz led with 50. ERA leader this year, Freddie Peralta, 2.43 ERA. A pretty good year for him, and Tyler Wells leads in the AL. So we are going to need to push through this playoff run. Hopefully, this can be our year here. So let's make sure we have our lineup set. Right-handed pitching. We are going to continue, I think, to just sit with Geloff on the bench. I know he's been really good. The one I'm concerned about is Rooker. I might just move Rooker down to the bottom of the lineup on both sides. Right here, lefty. I don't want him. Or maybe I do. Yeah, we will have Tim Anderson play second base. We can continue to go with Soderstrom against lefties, I guess, and have this balance right here. I think this is as good as we are going to do for now. The hope is we can go against this Rangers team, who we beat on the last day to make the playoffs. We are going to hope that we can take on this Rangers team, make sure my pitching rotation is good, and actually advance. So, sim through date. Auto utilize. Mason Miller going for the save. He gets the save on the day one. Second game, Josiah Gray versus Aaron Savali. All right, game 3, Ryan Pepio. We are going to go into this game. We are going to play game. And we are going to quick manage. This is very important. This is our wild card run. Ryan Pepio is going to start. We are going against a right-handed pitcher. So far, Ty France hitting pretty poorly. Kyle McCann doing absolutely phenomenally right now. So we are going to hope that we have a good start. Guillorme with a double to start off the game, but nothing else. So this is really kind of our shot here, I think. Obviously, we have another Pepio giving up 1 run there. Sack bunt, fly out. Okay. 1 run in the third. We can still come back from that with one of the best offenses, but that is going to be tough to recover from. We are going to move out and put in Holton right now. And hopefully we can get something from our guys here. We have bases loaded for Brent Rooker. I need you, Brent. All right, we got another walk. Guillorme, 1 run on a fielder's choice. It is 3-2. Luis Arias, walk. Ty France, sack fly. All right, tied game. Murakami grounds out. So it is 3-3. We will continue 1 more inning out of Holton there. They're going to go to Asuna, Schwarber, Rooker, Guillorme gets on base, but can't really get much there. We're going to move to Rydell. Pitch there. Got through that inning. Ty France with a single. Murakami hits a double play, though. So nothing coming there. All right. Janikowski, solo home run for Jacob Wilson. That gives us a 1-run lead. Schwarber with a walk, double play, pitching change, bring in Mason Miller to make us advance to the divisional round against the New York Yankees. All right, 1 round down. Let's make sure we have our pitching set. I think I want to make sure and adjust this lineup a little bit. Sears has been good. Actually, everybody has been pretty consistent. Pepio, really, like, we don't necessarily have a ratings boost by anybody if we move around here. Maybe I'll move Flaherty here. We'll do this. All right. So, to the Yankees series. Luis Arias, we're down by 1. The Yankees beat us in game 1. We simulate through this one. Mason Miller with a chance to get a save, and he blows the save. That is going to be rough. I don't know if we're going to make it. We get swept by the Yankees in the second round. That Mason Miller blown save is probably going to be what kills us here in this run. So what happened in this game? Can I look at the box score? So they had 4 runs in the 9th. Looks like we had... what happened? So, a grand slam by Keibert Ruiz. A grand slam by Keibert Ruiz off of Mason Miller to walk off that game. That's rough. 1.1929 ERA for Mason Miller. So, we will sim throughout the rest. The Dodgers defeat the Orioles in the 2026 World Series. We are going to go take a look at the awards there. World Series MVP back-to-back for Shohei Ohtani. If we go to postseason MVP, Mookie Betts and Adley Rutschman on that side. So, we made our first playoff run. We will move on to the offseason as we have to kind of rebuild our team a little bit and get prepared for the next season. The big one is Joe Garcia is going to be coming up this season, who is exactly what I said. We would trade him away, and he would play better than what we have. The Cy Young with a 3.15 ERA. So I guess I deserve it. I don't see us making the playoffs this year. So, yep, seems about right. First, let's go to awards. MVP.
And now we've been gutted. Organ donors for the rich. Boston's taking our kidneys, Yankees are taking our heart. If we try to play like the Yankees in here, we will lose to the Yankees out there.